Want to see these videos 5 days early and gain access to other exclusive perks? Then head on over to my Patreon in the description. Every contribution means the world to me. The year was 2006. At the young age of 5 years old, Thomas the Tank Engine was my obsession. I spent my time endlessly watching my VHS tapes, catching new episodes on TV, playing with my Tomy trains, all of that. However, the new episodes airing on TV at the time were nowhere near as good as what came before. I found myself drifting away from the show for reasons I couldn't explain. Being on the autistic spectrum, I felt like I could only fixate on one special interest at a time in my life. With my interest in Thomas fading, what could I possibly turn to next? Nothing else on TV calmed my nerves the same way Thomas did, so what was I supposed to do? That's when, in the summer, my dad took me somewhere new and totally different to me as a kid. The cinema. This wasn't like our TV at home. This was a giant screen that took up the space of a huge wall in a dark room full of comfy seats. I sat down beside him, the lights turned off, and what greeted my eyes upon that screen, the very first film I ever saw in cinemas, was Cars. This animated film from the ever-beloved Pixar studios truly changed my life. While I can respect that it's not the best film from Pixar, Cars is without a doubt my favourite Pixar film. It was the first time I found an entirely new special interest after Thomas. I collected the die-cast toys like no tomorrow, and would watch the film many times on DVD. Have you ever met a Cars fan who can quote most of the film from memory?
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
You know, once knew this girl, Doreen. Good-looking girl. Looked just like a Jaguar. Only she was a truck. You know, I used to crash into her just so I could spoke to her. What are you talking about? I don't know. Hey, I know something we can do tonight, because I'm in charge of watching you. No matter, I gotta finish this road, and I have to get out of here. Well, that's alright, mister. I can't turn on dirt. You probably couldn't handle it anyway. Whoa, easy now, mater. You know you're talking to. This is Lightning McQueen. I can handle anything.
I am that fan. This film meant so much to me back then, and still does. But beyond watching the film over and over again and collecting the toys, there was a third way I got to experience the world of Cars. I can't remember exactly what day it was. It might have been a caravan holiday in 2007, I think. Basically, my family and I began watching the Cars DVD, but didn't skip the trailers. And in doing so, I was presented with this.
At 150 miles an hour, time stands still. And any move you make can land you in the winner's circle or the junkyard. Become Lightning McQueen as you train to win the Piston Cup. Explore the open world of Radiator Springs. Go cruising, meet the locals, head off-road. Play as your favorite characters in over 30 races and minigames. Burn rubber on your own or make your friends eat your dust with multiplayer modes. Disney presents Pixar film.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Cars, the video game. Watch it, race it, live it. Ka-chow!
I was wide-eyed with curiosity. What's a video game? I already enjoy playing with the toys. Now I can play as Lightning McQueen on the TV? Can I do that? How do I do that? I was so excited by the very idea of this game, and I wondered for ages if I would ever get a chance to play it. Then, in September of that year, as an early birthday present, my mum and dad asked me to come downstairs from my bedroom to the living room, and there it was, a dark, bulky PS2 in front of the TV. And after they explained to me that it was a games console, my mum handed me this very case. Cars, the video game, for the PlayStation 2. And when I finally sat down and played the game, I was absolutely terrible.
Your luck. ball! Watch the ball!
I got better.
This was my introduction to video games, teaching me the ins and outs of gaming that led me to discover other franchises in the future. Sonic, Pokemon, Mario, throw in a couple of Dragon Ball games here and there, all that. Yet another instance of Cars being my introduction to something completely new to me as a kid. I've wanted to talk about Cars in some form or fashion on this channel for ages, as it is very special to me. Considering my luck when it comes to talking about things other than Thomas on this channel, you'd think I'd learned my lesson at this point, but fuck it, third time's the charm. I hope. Plus, since I just got done covering Series 10 of Thomas and Friends, the series where I first lost interest, it only seems fitting to talk about the franchise that I turned to after I stepped away. The game itself does indeed have plenty of coverage on YouTube, but none tackle what I believe makes this game truly special, what makes it Pixar's best video game tie-in. With over 16 years experience playing this game, I am ready as ever to get started. Here we go. Development of Cars the video game goes as far back as 2002, when video game publishers THQ acquired the rights to produce video game tie-ins for Pixar Studios' next 3 animated films at the time, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, and of course, Cars. Working with both Rainbow Studios, known at the time for their off-road racing game series MX vs ATV, and Buena Vista Games, a game publishing division of Disney Interactive. The most wowing factor of this game's development, of course, was that they worked very closely with Disney and Pixar themselves. Lead game designer Jordan Itkowitz, in an interview with Ain't It Cool News in 2006, the day before the game's release, stated the following in regards to working with the animation studios. Our shared goal was to make the game as one-to-one with the movie as possible, and so Pixar furnished with us mountains of reference and concept art. Our artists had access to the lighting, environment, and texture artists to nail the visuals. Our animators had frequent check-ins and shadow meetings with their animators to ensure that our in-game characters moved and performed as you'd expect them to. Cutscenes went through a thorough process of feedback and approval as we worked with the DP and the layout artists to match camera angles and composition. And of course, we saw the movie many times during development, even back when it was just boards and a scratch track. These guys were dead set on making the world of Cars in this game as accurate to the film as they could, and if it's not obvious in how they animated the characters, it is without a doubt clear in its voice cast. A common thing in video game tie-ins is saving the cost of having to pay the celebrity voice actors from the films by hiring sound-alikes. Sometimes it works out okay, other times they just sound way too different.
Nothing shows off a racer's skills better than showing off after an amazing jump. Get her done!
That was not the case for this game. The entire cast of the first Cars movie returned to voice the characters. Owen Wilson as Lightning McQueen.
Wow.
Larry the Cable Guy as Mater. Bonnie Hunt as Sally. Tony Shalhoub as Luigi. Michael Keaton as Chick Hicks. Paul Newman as Doc Hudson, etc. Including less frequent characters like John Ratzenberger as Mac.
Oh, hey, looking good there, McQueenski.
Oh my goodness, hello. Hi.
And all 4 of the actors for the neon cars from the beginning of the film. Nearly everyone came back. The only character who didn't appear was Red the Fire Engine. Though there were supposedly plans to include him in the game only to be scrapped, I think his exclusion might have to do with the fact that he had no dialogue in the film beyond gasping and crying. And because his voice actor, Joe Ranft, the co-director and one of the story writers for the first Cars film, had died tragically in August 2005. Joe actually worked very closely with the story team writing the script for this game and also directed the voice recording sessions. While Joe went uncredited for the game's story, it was published in memory of him, just as the film was. Oh yeah, there was also some story contributions from the film's main director, John Lasseter, but the less said about him, the better. Cars was set to be an open-world racing game, with the whole of Radiator Springs to explore in a story set after the events of the first film. To once again quote Jordan from the interview, making a game during and not after a film production can be tricky, though if the film changes or the storyline shifts, you run the risk of losing some of your work. It's no secret that Pixar will tweak their story until it's perfect. Luckily, we had a fairly modular structure, allowing us to shuffle or drop things as needed. Staging our story after the events of the film worked in our favour as well. With direct involvement from Disney and Pixar, they were also provided with 14 new characters to use in the game, including some that were scrapped concepts from the original film, like the Monster Truck Trio and Fletcher and Gerald, the British gentleman racers. I personally find that so cool. They didn't rush thinking up brand new characters in a short deadline, they took those that were left as drawings on paper and brought them to life. The game was released for several consoles on the 6th of June 2006. The PlayStation 2, the version we're going to be looking at, GameCube, Xbox, PC, and the handheld consoles, the PlayStation Portable, Game Boy Advance, and DS. Though these versions were drastically different to the main console releases due to handheld limitations, of course. The game itself, as a matter of fact, was released 3 whole days before the film debuted in cinemas, meaning there's a very small chance that kids got to play the video game before going to see the film that the story was set after. That's just crazy. Months later, in October and November of that year, the game was re-released for the Xbox 360 and Nintendo Wii, based on the main console releases, but instead of Rainbow Studios, Incinerator Studios helped with the development of those versions. The game received very mixed reviews upon its first release, though the 360 and Wii versions did receive an above-average review score of over 7 out of 10. It was even given a few sales awards, including Player's Choice on the GameCube, Platinum Hits on both the Xbox and Xbox 360, and a Platinum Sales Award on the PlayStation 2. And as I mentioned before, this game is remembered very fondly by people on YouTube, remembering it as one of Pixar's best video game tie-ins, and I couldn't agree more. But how does this game accomplish all that? Let's finally dive in and find out. Cars the video game, as previously mentioned, directly follows the story events of the film. Radiator Springs is back on the map, with regularly visiting cars driving on its now fixed main road, and Lightning McQueen has settled into the town as his new home. It's been some time since the last Piston Cup championship, where Lightning gave up his chance of winning to help the King finish his last race.
You just gave up the Piston Cup. You know that?
This grumpy old race car I know once told me something.
Just an empty cup.
And as Lightning dreams of the Radiator Springs Grand Prix, only to be woken up by Sally, it's clear he misses the high-speed thrills of being on the racetrack. The next championship is starting up soon, but despite Lightning's eagerness to get back on the track, Mac insists that he get some practice first, as he's been taking things easy in the downtime between championships.
Besides, they just don't let anybody with 4 wheels race for the Piston Cup, you know.
So the races and minigames spread out around town and far into the desert are a means of Lightning stretching his wheels and preparing himself for the big leagues, including racing against new characters, fans and not fans, who arrive to challenge him, as well as receiving training from his now crew chief, Doc Hudson.
Hey!
While still remembering to kick back and have fun hanging out with his best friend Mater or planning dates with Sally, as well as hanging out with the other residents of Radiator Springs. When Lightning completes enough games and races, he's ready to head into each new Piston Cup race, which act as finales to the chapters of the game's story. Following the King's retirement at the end of the film, the biggest draw for the spectators is Lightning McQueen versus Piston Cup champion Chick Hicks, who, after his horrible sportsmanship last season causing the King to crash, leading to losing both his fan base and a chance to sign up with Dynaco, is now in it to do all he can to stop Lightning and anyone else from taking away his hollow title of champion. And as the game goes on and Lightning continues to train, we see Chick is up to no good and spying on him. One night, the neon cars find Mac on the interstate and trick him into sleeping just as they did in the film, before stealing Lightning's important racing gear from his trailer. Only after Lightning chases them down to get his stuff back do we find out that it was Chick who paid them to do it. So he confronts him about it at the next big race, raising the tension between them going into what is the last race of the season. Except it's not the last race of the season because Chick refuses to accept defeat, leading to Lightning challenging him to 3 races in Radiator Springs under the title The Radiator Springs Grand Prix, which he accepts. And after those 3 races, each taking part in the locations we've come to know and explore over the course of the game, they enter one final stadium race, with Lightning finally winning the season title of champion and the Piston Cup. The story ends with Lightning deciding to travel the country as a seasoned racer for a while, leaving his trophy back in Radiator Springs displayed in Doc's checkup garage, right next to Doc's very own trophies.
Ooh, I almost forgot. Did you pack your trophy?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Don't worry, it's in a good place.
How very wholesome. I first want to talk about the humour in this game. Cars was a very funny film, and while some people may roll their eyes at the numerous car puns, the comedic elements were genuinely great, full of Pixar's classic humour that makes both kids and adults laugh.
I'm telling you, man, every third blink is slower.
The 60s weren't good to you, were they?
That same level of comedy can be felt in this game. Sometimes a character will have a line or a reaction to something that just cracks me up.
Psst, Mater.
What? What happened? Somebody called the police.
Oh, hey, buddy.
You'll need to be agile, fit, athletic, and adaptable.
You've been reading my press, haven't you, Sarge? Although you left out sleek, charming, and dashing. Okay, I'm going.
There's also the visual humour, like how McQueen is trying to hide the fact that he's challenging Sheriff to a rematch race, only for the camera to swap round and show the start-finish line right behind them as they're talking. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I found that pretty funny. One character in particular makes for great comedy, and that's Chick Hicks. In the film, Chick's only power that he had over the other racers was bumping them off the track to climb the ladder. After what he did to the King, nobody is buying his bullshit anymore, so now what we're left with is just an average race car with 0 fans backing him up and a short temper. A guy who so believes he's number 1 that whenever he brags or explodes in anger, it's so pathetic that it's actually funny.
Check it out.
So, big deal.
Well, you know, I just figured you might want to get acquainted with the view. You know what I mean? You know, because you're going to be spending a lot of time behind me. In the race. We're going to be in the race, and I'll be ahead of you, and you'll be behind me. In the race! Is it me? Is it, what are we not getting here?
A lot of that is helped by Michael Keaton's performance. He knows exactly the right amount of energy to bring to this character to make him sound so unthreatening that you can't help but laugh. This scene in particular, right after Lightning beat him in Chick's challenge, is the best example of that energy.
I forgot to tell you, Chick, the roads out here aren't like the tracks you and I are used to. No, they got these things called right turn.
Hey, so what? Wasn't a real race anyway. Nobody was there to see it or watch us. Nobody's there. Like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody, doesn't get hurt. Does anybody see it? Or, hear it?
What I love the most about Chick in this game, though, is that while he is such a pathetic guy on the surface, he's still a cunning villain. He can't play dirty on the track anymore, so he's forced to be more discreet and pull strings behind the curtains. Which leads me to something else that I love about this game's story: how clever it is. I mean, I know it's a video game tie-in story, so it's nothing groundbreaking, But I love how smart the whole thing is written. The reveal of Chick's plan is set up and paid off so well in how they utilise the characters on his side. Let's talk about the racers from Queens, Vince, Sonny, Barry and Lenny respectively. They show up as one of the first races to play after unlocking Ornament Valley in the open world, and are a very rough, tough gang of race cars with typical New York accents. They're not here for a friendly race, they are here to prove they're the best. Which is in stark contrast to the more polite and sophisticated new characters from Britain and Mexico we met before. At first we just think, oh cool, some new characters to race against, and not much else. Then in the next story chapter, 3 of them are still hanging out in that same petrol station, only now they're with Chick, who we know is spying on Lightning in Radiator Springs. Okay, now it makes sense why they're here. They get on with Chick because they're just as egotistical and aggressive as he is, so they must be here to help him in his challenge against Lightning. A point which is confirmed much later when their leader, Vince, is interviewed on live TV for the Radiator Springs Grand Prix. Whatever ulterior motives Chick has for being in Radiator Springs are kept in the dark. In that time, we also come across the neon cars when we unlock Tailfin Pass, and the 4 of them are blocking off one of the roads to McQueen, just because they can. They were established to be troublemaking dickheads in the movie, so it makes sense for them to be behaving this way. McQueen, of course, puts them in their place, beating them in a race, and they get all hot-tempered and vengeful as a result.
This isn't over, McQueen.
Let's bounce!
You're made to think that their plan to raid Mac's trailer is their revenge, to get even with McQueen after he made a fool out of them. However, we find out it was instead Chick who paid them off to do so.
Hey, it wasn't our idea!
Yeah, some car paid us off.
Some car?
Yeah, some green race car. I don't know, he had a mustache.
Ah, Chick.
Now it all makes sense. Chick travelled all the way out to Radiator Springs to find out the route that Mac takes travelling there. He would encounter the neon cars after they lost to McQueen in their race in Tailfin Pass, and now he has a gang of people he can send to do his dirty work. Chick knows he can't beat Lightning fair and square, so if he can't make it to the race without all his stuff, that removes the only obstacle in his way to protect his name of champion. He may be pathetic on the surface, but he is smarter than you think, so don't misjudge him. It's written so cleverly, and I love how they took the time to set it up and pay it off so well. There's a few other moments of setup and payoff in the story too, like how Doc tells McQueen he needs more practice driving in the desert after his challenge.
How's that? Okay?
Ah, that's okay, but you're hanging it out too much. Too early on the throttle.
And then it's followed up on later when Sarge's boot camp begins with Sarge ready to train Lightning in off-road driving, as requested by Doc.
Now, Doc said you are sorely in need of some formal off-road training. And by the looks of you, I'd say he's right.
Depending on if you played the minigames in chapter order, McQueen tells Luigi about a bunch of tyres and hubcaps left lying all over the place in Luigi to the Rescue, and in the later Monster Truck Mayhem when McQueen returns to Casadella Tyres, Luigi and Guido are busy putting tyres away, the ones Luigi rescued before. McQueen starts drinking Fillmore's boost juice to give him access to the boost mechanic in the game, and he increases the boost amount he can use by Mater gifting him a boost canister after he won it to the Rust Bucket Race-O-Rama, and later on gets one of the neon cars, Boost, to give up one of his cans after beating them in the race. McQueen doesn't just randomly decide to increase how much boost he can use out of the blue, he earns it from other characters. Or, most wholesomely, when Lightning dreams of the Radiator Springs Grand Prix, it's played off as a setup for a tutorial race for the game and nothing more, only for it to come into play later when Chick refuses to admit losing the big race at the Smashville International Speedway, and so Lightning challenges him to 3 races, but poses the name
the Radiator Springs Grand Prix.
His dream, while harmless and nothing more than a tutorial, comes true, going as far as the first of the 3 races having the same loading screen artwork as the first Grand Prix, just with Doc switched out for Chick. All of this probably doesn't mean much, as, again, this is a video game tie-in story, and no, it doesn't really go anywhere drastic. The tension from the Chick Hicks plot doesn't lead to a more dramatic race or anything. It's kind of forgotten about in the final chapter, honestly. but I strongly respect the writers for taking the time to write a completely original script for the game, one that shows that there was a level of care and intelligence placed into it. Nothing feels half-arsed. Let's talk about the characters, starting with the new ones. Admittedly, some of them are very one-note. Fletcher and Gerald are very much just the British characters, complete with sophisticated dialogue.
Splendid! How fortuitous! My colleague Gerald and I were hoping to engage your attention in a little competitive excursion.
Was that English?
British, my dear boy. We've hopped across the pond to give you Yanks 1-4, eh?
Yo, pip pip cheerio, you skank-ass bitch!
And El Guapo and Papo, the cars from Mexico. I don't know who they're supposed to be. Even the monster trucks, Count Spatula, the Crippler, and Ginormous, just feel like fairly standard monster personalities.
I will flatten you like a pancake!
You can't hide from us!
But not only do they have designs ranging from good to awesome, ones that naturally fit the Cars universe, they do have their little moments sprinkled throughout the game. I like when Fletcher is talking very passionately about his love for racing at the beginning of the Tailfin Pass circuit, using very distinguished words to describe it. Meanwhile, Vince and Sonny are just not getting any of what he's saying and just want to get on the track.
Every turn a bracing new thrill, every distance a dangerous gauntlet. Don't you agree, my fellow racing aficionados?
We gonna race or what?
Then you get the monster trucks looking down at the camera as they intimidate McQueen, Luigi and Guido, but as soon as McQueen is fitted with the big tyres, he's now on their level as the camera shows, complete with Ginormous and the Crippler being visibly afraid of him, backing behind Count Spatula. Little moments like that add to what are very one-dimensional characters with, at the very least, cool designs. Not much to say about the racers from Queens that I haven't said already. They have cool designs, and aside from Lenny and Sonny, who have no dialogue, unless you crash into them,
This ain't gonna fly, but... Hey!
Barry and Vince are quite fun characters. Barry is that one member of the group who is really too much of an innocent guy to be involved with this gang, and as a result, often gets bumped in moments where he just doesn't know how uncool he is.
Come on, tough guy. I will throw down, which is right here, right now.
Yeah, throw down on the ground, on the road. Ow!
Vince, the group leader, is all rough and tough on the outside, always looking to assert his dominance when it's just a small group of people around. But when he's on camera, knowing everyone is watching, he's just as innocent as Barry, stuttering like a nervous wreck and saying hi to his mother like a giddy child.
And we're here at the start of race number 3 of the Radiator Springs Grand Prix with Vince, who came all the way out here from... Queens? Is that right?
Yeah.
Hi, Ma! Did you come all the way out here to race against Lightning McQueen?
No. We know that guy, but, you know, actually, we came out to, train with Chick, you know, yeah. We figured if he wants to be the best, you know, he's got to train with, like, a real professional racer, you know? Someone who could win a lot. Yeah.
He's my favourite new addition, he's great. For our returning characters, man oh man do we get some great expansion. In the movie, we don't really get to see Lightning interact with the vast majority of the Radiator Springs cast one-to-one. Most of the dialogue was between him and Mater, Sally, Doc, Luigi and Guido, whereas Fillmore, Ramon, Sarge, Lizzie and Flo barely got anything. Most of their interactions were left to the montage where Lightning tried out all their different stores. Here, however, mostly everyone gets their own dedicated race and/or minigame that shows off a bit more of their personality. We find out Lizzie doesn't just do bumper stickers, she's also spent many years collecting postcards. But she's so old and delirious that when they go missing out the front door, she completely forgets they were even missing in the first place when Lightning brings them all back.
Who are you?
Lightning McQueen? I found your postcards.
Oh, there they are. I've been looking everywhere for them.
Sarge may seem like your stock standard war veteran, constantly barking orders, but we see he also has a jokey side to him as he teases Lightning during training and plays into his old mindset of being the spoiled rich guy.
You look overheated, Private McQueen.
Yes.
Exhausted?
Yes.
You'd like nothing better than a hot car wash, a cool ration of fuel, and a nice shady garage.
Oh, yes, please.
Well, too bad. We're gonna go for a little drive.
That face says it all, man. Fillmore creates Lightning's first batch of boost juice, in the most Fillmore way possible.
Hey, Fillmore, what's cooking?
A new batch of special brew, my friend.
And offers to just keep brewing it free of charge out of the kindness of his heart. I also really like this moment from him in this deleted scene, setting up a deleted race game with him against Sarge.
Why not settle this the old-fashioned way?
Whoa, I don't like to duel, man. I'm a pacifist.
He's a funny guy. Sheriff is more or less the same as he was in the movie, not much changed. But I do love when you get to play as him in the Sheriff Hot Pursuit minigame. He whoops for joy whenever you boost and drift, like he's having fun chasing criminals. Ramon unfortunately got the short end of the stick, as a minigame dedicated to his flying suit, I'm guessing it was something like a stunt ramp jump, got cut from the game and only exists as a deleted scene. At the very least though, he became the main voice you hear in the paint job body shop and character select screen for arcade mode, which makes it funny when you choose to play as him because it's like he's talking to himself.
Somebody's looking spicy.
Flo didn't get much to do either, but she still had her moments. She joins in on Sally's challenge race against Mia and Tia just for a fun-filled girls' day out.
Count me in too, honey. Can't have a girls' day without me.
And off-screen, she shows her sweet, caring side by looking after Mac after he was mugged on the interstate.
You got our stuff back, and Flo's been taking good care of me.
Luigi, Guido, Sally, Doc and Meta have their contributions of course, each being in character as well, but none of the cast feels swept aside. Everyone, for the most part, makes a solid contribution. But the character who stands out the most in this story, as expected, is our main boy Lightning McQueen. He went through such a solid character arc in the film. His journey from rude and snobby arsehole to a kind and friendly soul was a simple but sweet one, as he learned a valuable lesson of learning to appreciate the world around him outside the fast lane. Throughout the entirety of this game, we see that developed character on full display. Never does he ever try to put himself in a position above his friends or whine about not getting treated like royalty like he did before. He's fully prepared to go out and find every one of Lizzie's missing postcards without being told. He completely disregards his biggest fans Mia and Tia flashing their headlights at him, when he used to love that stuff happening to him in the past. He shows up to Meta's yard to have a backwards driving lesson, just as Meta said he would do.
Rear view mirrors. We'll get you some and I'll teach you if you want.
Even though Lightning already mastered backwards driving when he used it in the film's final race, he still showed up to have that lesson because it was a promise from his best friend.
Hey, I'm looking for the world's best backwards driver. You seen him around? Do you think he has time to give me that backwards driving lesson he promised?
You bet your ding-dang bumper I do.
One of my favourite scenes showing how much he's grown is when he hears from Sheriff what happened to Mac on the interstate with all his stuff getting stolen. His first question is
he okay?
And only when he is assured Mac is safe does he then start thinking about his missing gear. Lightning, the guy who used to force Mac to work overtime without rest in order to be ahead of the competition in the film, is now worried for his well-being and takes matters into his own hands to get back at those who hurt him.
That's it. You can mess with me, but you don't mess with my friends.
I love it. Even though he has matured, his cocky, rookie race car side we know and love does show from time to time.
Huh. You think I should do the same thing to him? Go to his town, hide out, watch him practice?
You race. As well as you run your mouth, you'd have that piston cup already.
I love how he belittles Chick at any opportunity he can.
I know. Thought I might try out a few things I've learned.
Ah, you went back to school. Good for you, Chick. Maybe you'll even graduate this time. Education is so important.
He's right, you know. Ow!
And I enjoy hearing his quippy remarks during races.
Hey, guys, what can I say? Winning's my destiny. Don't feel bad. You've been passed by the best.
McQueen is perfectly written in this game, and I love that they didn't resort to making him too nice or too cocky. Let's talk about world building, because my god did they go ham! Not only do we have the entirety of Radiator Springs as we remembered from the film in this game, complete with the Willys Butte race track, the long drive up Tailfin Pass to Wheel Well, and getting to play on various parts of the tractor farm with different levels of tractor tipping, but this being an open world game, we can go out and see the unknown parts of Radiator Springs we didn't get to see before. Most of it is desert, so to some it may get visually dull very fast, but there's a sense of mystery to it all. The town itself is only just back on the map, of course, and while the town is chock full of cars driving around, there are still parts of this place that were left unexplored for years. Dry gorges overgrown with weeds and cacti, desert tracks that rise and fall and curve with the rocky, dusty terrain, some of which go far off the beaten track and allow you to jump across those tall, mountainous rocks that once seemed inaccessible. There are various bridges across the desert, those that are big and properly built, and those that are smaller and more tacky. A rotting railway that seems to climb into the steep peaks of Ornament Valley, implying trains used to run through parts of this town long ago. An abandoned mine shaft running into the mountains of Tailfin Pass, and the pass itself having its own various cliffside pathways, one of which goes behind the iconic waterfall we passed by on our climb to the top of the mountain. How Willys Butte isn't just right next to Radiator Springs, no, there's a vast open stretch of land which Sarge has repurposed for his boot camp, fenced off from anyone entering. Oh, unless you try this glitch. Yes, you can't stop me now, Sarge. Look at me driving around the obstacle course at my leisure with no timer. Okay, time to leave. Oh, I can't. Well shit, now what do I do? There is no real plot significance to these locations, of course. The two other main areas are unlocked by means of you simply progressing through specific races set to these locations. Though Tailfin Pass does have some significance to the story, with how it's the payoff to McQueen and Sally's date they arranged earlier, and how part of the pass is blocked off by the neon cars which Lightning unlocks by beating them, giving them their motivation to pay him out later. Ornament Valley isn't that important to the story, other than being set dressing for Lightning's first encounter with the Queen's races. But it is home to the newly established Rust Bucket Racerama Stadium, giving Mater some backstory with it being a family tradition for him to compete in these demolition derbies, and even briefly introducing us to his extended family with his cousins like Tommy Joe. The valley itself is even implied to be where the tractor farm is based, with this one-off grassy field showing a broken wooden trailer, just like the ones used in the tractor tipping games to cross various gaps. So for anyone who watched this scene in the first film overlooking all of Radiator Springs wondering where the fuck is the tractor farm, this game fixes that. The game is more focused on using these new locations and tracks as fascinating backdrops to the races you partake in. You can speed past them without a care in the world in the races, but you can also stop and observe these surroundings in the world map. Any and all racetracks you run on can be driven to in the world map and observed to a certain extent. I think my favourite of these main worlds has got to be Tailfin Pass. Radiator Springs is nostalgic, of course, and the moments at night time where the streets are lit up by the neon lights made 100% accurate to the film is magnificent, but the desert can feel a little samey. And Ornament Valley is just more of that same desert, only without any pretty neon lights. And it's actually pretty easy to get lost in how everything kind of looks the same. With Tailfin Pass, we climb beyond all the sand and dust clouds and into the breathtaking mountains. While yes, it is drastically different to the film's version, I don't mind because it allows for some more interesting set pieces like this giant rock used as a huge jump ramp across the forest.
Ooh. Oh yeah!
We even get the iconic spots to overlook Radiator Springs down below, which if we drive down just spawns us back on the road. Oh, but I want to break my bones falling down a cliff. Ah, well, at least I can push Chick over the cliff edge to his doom. Long live the king, Batman. I love the effort that Jordan Itkowitz and the development team put into this game's world and story. This was a video game tie-in for a movie made for kids. A movie about talking cars. They had every right to just phone it in, create another poor man's Mario Kart clone, and call it a day, with no open world and just a couple of linear racetracks. Instead, they brought on those same passionate storytellers from the movie and delivered on something that feels one-to-one with the Cars universe. So much so that I feel like this story could be made into its own film, short or feature length, and the end result would totally suffice. Let's talk about the controls and presentation. You have the basics when it comes to racing games: an accelerate button, a brake/reverse button, an emergency brake button, and steering with the D-pad or analog stick. The trigger buttons allow you to turn sharp corners by either tilting on two wheels or by power sliding, though avoid using the D-pad if you want to drift, as only the analog stick allows you to drift properly without going off course. And playing into the world's more cartoony nature, flicking the steering stick up and down quickly whilst driving allows you to jump over various obstacles, which I do love to use to fly over other cars in a race. You also later unlock the drive backwards technique, where by pressing the e-brake twice, you turn around and basically invert your steering. This is the game's method of teabagging, and in a game where you'll most likely be miles ahead of the competing cars, it's actually quite funny to do. That and doing donuts until they pass you. Woo! 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 Fucking meow! Get your ass back here, boy! I think the driving controls work just fine. No doubt because I've been playing this game for so long that it's basically second nature, but I always feel like I am in control of my actions. There's never a moment where I feel like I'm unable to move around specific terrain or turn tight corners without crashing because of the controls. They're just loose enough for you to slide around like a rally car, but accurate enough to make it not feel like you're always driving on ice. Anytime I feel like I don't have control is when I do crash and I am a slave to the game's kind of wacky physics.
Slow down!
Watch that, honey! Whoa!
The physics in general work good enough when you're racing and just driving about, but sometimes they tend to get a bit goofy. Which, for a game this old, you can't help but chuckle at. The presentation of this game is also fantastic. I already mentioned how Pixar helped a lot with making the cars look and move as accurately to the movie as possible, and I totally see that here. The way they gesture their tyres, tilt their bodies, move their eyes, and the way they subtly roll back and forth while talking, I don't feel like I'm watching someone's attempt at adapting Pixar's cars, I feel like I'm watching Pixar's cars. With those levels of detail even stretching to when you play as them in the races, how they lean their bodies when they steer, how the monster truck tyres remain still whilst their bodies tilt and bounce around on the suspension, or detail specific to one character like how Meta's tow cable flows in the wind when turning at high speeds. Radiator Springs, Ornament Valley, Tailfin Pass, and the various raceways, they are all visual treats to race in. The dust clouds, the lens flares from the sunlight, and the lighting in general is beautiful. I know that it's from an older generation of console, and inevitably does not compare to the hyper-realistic graphics of today's consoles.
Oh, it's nice.
Oh, there you are!
But I'd argue that's to the game's benefit. This was the 6th generation of consoles, a time where gamers would look at something like Spider-Man 2 on the same console and think, oh my god, it's so realistic! You know, that kind of energy. They're not pushing the console beyond their capabilities to create photorealistic environments. They're working with the limited technology to create something magnificent to control and look at. Nothing feels cheap. Except for this. And the difficulty of the races. In story mode, the races you compete in are piss easy. Once you master how to do a basic power slide, learn where all the shortcut gates are, and unlock each of the... Bless me. Once you master how to do a basic power slide, learn where all the shortcut gates are, and unlock each level of boosting, the opposing cars will simply fall miles behind as you speed along. As mentioned, you can fuck around by driving backwards and doing donuts until they catch up, but if you're purposefully sabotaging yourself in order to get more challenge out of the game, that's not a good sign. It's made for kids, I get that, but victory shouldn't be something handed to them on a silver platter, it should be something they earn as a result of getting better and better at the game. Thankfully, there is kind of a way to fix this in arcade mode, where you get to play the races without having to drive to them in the overworld. Originally, there's 3 levels of difficulty to choose: Rookie, Pro, and Practice, the latter letting you drive around the track solo to get a gist of how the controls work before racing against other cars. By creating a profile under this specific name, you unlock Champion Mode. While it's still relatively easy to win races, you are more likely to be passed by the other cars if you make too many mistakes, and trying to catch up to them, even with the boost, gives the game a bit more of a challenge. Especially if you play as other characters who, because they have individual stats for when you play as them, can either have you achieve victory with ease, need to try again, or just barely make it. Holy shit! 100th of a second ahead! But if I can still brake before the finishing line and wait a significant time before my opponents catch up and I snag a victory away from them at the last second...
You never know where lightning will strike.
It's funny, but too easy. I honestly got more of a challenge from the optional minigames, as a lot of them are either under a time limit or long-term scavenger hunts. God, I still hate Lizzie's bloody postcard hunt to this day with how monotonous it is. Funny how in a game where the biggest draw is the racing, minigames like tractor tipping, or as I like to call it, Metal Gear Solid with how you have to avoid Frank and the searchlights to scare tractors, are what I struggled with the most. Come on, come on, come on, where's the last one? I'm gonna find it, time's running out. Oh, motherfuck! Okay, let's try this again. Back on the subject of arcade mode, you unlock the different tracks by racing in them throughout story mode, which is also how you collect bonus points needed to unlock different characters. These points are rewarded to you by either performing tricks while racing, maintaining the lead for a full lap, or just collecting these lightning bolts scattered throughout the open world. Ah, that sound will never get old. You need a certain amount of points to unlock all these characters, so you may find yourself replaying these races over and over in order to reach the quota. Or you could just unlock all of them with the cheat codes. No harm in that. Can't spend too much time unlocking everything, I got shit to do. Oh man, cheat codes, am I right? If you were a gamer in the 90s and early 2000s, there were no 2 words more magical and mysterious to hear than cheat codes. I find it funny how for the cheat code mode in this game specifically, when you type one in successfully, it makes a car unlock sound as if you're breaking into someone's car. And any unsuccessful one is like you're being pulled over by the police.
Officer, I swear, the car's mine. Look, I've got the license for it.
This is also how I unlock the other things in this game, like the paint jobs for the other characters, concept art that shows how they designed said paint jobs, the cars and various locations of the game, deleted scenes showing what could have been for this game, and watching scenes directly from the film. To talk about the bonus content for a second, I love that they gave us access to all this concept artwork because seeing all these meticulously crafted character paint jobs and beautifully drawn locations just goes to show how passionate they were about making this game. Back in the day I could give fuck all about this, but now as an adult, I can't get enough of it. Also watching scenes from the film, while they're not the best quality as this is the PS2, they fill me with such nostalgia. I could watch the low-resolution scene of Doc racing around Willie's Butte all day. The deleted scenes were a neat little addition, getting to see they did indeed have plans for a Ramon minigame of sorts, and perhaps something involving Bessie the road paving machine. There is actually quite a few things that ended up getting cut from this game that we still don't see unlocked by cheat codes. Like how Sheriff's Hot Pursuit would have had a cutscene play showing him catch each of the cars he chased down, a cutscene where Daryl Cartrip introduces the final race between Lightning and Chick Hicks, and character icons like Lizzie and even Stanley of all characters. Was this going to be like a flashback race, showing Lizzie and Stanley racing together in the old days of Radiator Springs? That would have been really cool, and honestly kinda sweet seeing these two racing together in their younger years. Maybe it's the one drive where they fell in love that Lizzie mentioned in the film. We know it would have been the very, very early days of Radiator Springs after that one Mater's Tall Tale short where he travels back in time, so getting to race in that time period of the town would have been very unique compared to the rest of the game. So nice to just imagine what if. God, I'm such a nerd. There are other things you can unlock with the cheat codes, like the Mater's Speedy Circuit Racetrack and Mater's Countdown Cleanup minigame. These are pretty cool to play for the first time, but not much to say about them.
You never know where lightning will strike.
And you can also use the codes to unlock hacks for racing, like unlimited boost and a fast start when the race begins. But I didn't bother, this game's already too easy as is. You also get multiplayer, which I can't exactly show off on my own, but at a glance, it's just the fun races you played before, but now you actually have someone to provide you a challenge. Make your friends eat your dust. What bloody friends? You can also change the jukebox to have certain songs be or not be available during races, and thank God, because songs like White Knuckle Ride and Best Looking Guy in Town got on my nerves. The game's soundtrack is made up of both licensed music and originally composed songs by Bruno Kuhn, who previously worked on the Cars movie as the music editor. I like this soundtrack. It makes for a great listen as I'm gliding through the desert or speeding ahead on the stadium racetracks. My personal favourites being the main theme, One More Chicken, What I Want, and especially Night Drive. They all make for great listens. So, we've talked about the PS2 version of this game, one of its main releases in terms of graphics and presentation, along with the GameCube, Xbox and PC version. But how does this game differ on other consoles? Well, during the making of this review, I acquired the help of 3 friends: Gianluca, or the Thomas and Tugs man, Leo, and Thomas of Heisel Productions. Each of these 3 guys very kindly offered to look at different versions of Cars the video game for this video, so for the next few minutes I'll pass you on to them to give their experiences, starting with Gianluca, who is looking at the Wii version.
Now this may come as a shock to you, but there are a lot more games that I play that aren't just the Five Nights at Freddy's games for the umpteenth time.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Yeah, FNAF 2's Night 6 almost broke me. I do indeed play a variety of video games, whether it be Animal Crossing, Angry Birds, Minecraft obviously, and even my favourite video game, Flight Simulator X.
Crash is played with no survivors!
But for the sake of the video, I'll discuss one of my childhood games, Cars the video game for the original Wii. As a Cars fan back then, and still to this day, I have a lot of fond memories playing this, as well as the Cars 2 video game, even if that game was just Mario Kart but with Cars characters. Which is why I lean more towards playing the first video game. Whilst it is a racing game, as well as a gateway for me playing more fully fledged racing games like the Forza series for the Xbox, but it also felt like a sandbox game in a way. Getting to explore Radiator Springs and watching the townfolk drive by always felt so quaint. And yes, of course I bashed into other cars at top speed. Who didn't? Hey! Now because this was for the Wii, this meant that it utilizes motion controls. Honestly, it feels very solid and responsive, for the most part. Button 2 is to accelerate, tilting the Wii remote a certain amount in order to get around tight corners using the D-pad to power slide, with the right pad being the tilt button, double tapping the back button to drive backwards, and jolting the Wii remote up to jump. But in the tractor tipping minigame, that's where the controls are kinda different. You can't accelerate or brake, so you just go crashing into walls and bushes, and if you're not careful, you'll bump into Frank.
I'm very angry!
Where the motion controls really come into play is in the pit stops and the Piston Cup races. You can also play with the nunchuck, however you need to go into the settings to optimize the controls, which that in itself also functions very responsively during my latest playthrough. I personally prefer the Mario Kart-like horizontal placement of the controller. Also on my latest replay, I played the compact mode for the first time, and it's okay, I guess, but it's just kind of a watered down version of the full-sized one, which I understand the whole point of it is to be more simple for younger players, but there's one glaring issue I have with it. A lot of the side missions / minigames still have the same difficulty as the ones in the full-size mode. Like catching 15 speeders in Sheriff's Hot Pursuit, there's still 8 levels in tractor tipping, and the most annoying one of them all, you've still got to find 20 postcards in Lizzie's postcard hunt.
Oh,
biscuits.
Other than that, there's some noticeable changes to certain placements of missions compared to the regular story mode. Like the whole Radiator Springs Grand Prix is just a dream and doesn't become a reality later on.
Just like dreams in real life.
There's only 3 Piston Cup races. Some races appear sooner, like Meta's backwards lesson after boosting with Fillmore, and the final race at Los Angeles after Lightning Strikes Back. Luckily, they don't affect the story too much. Graphically, it looks nice, especially when it comes to Radiator Springs at nighttime or exploring the high mountains of Tailfin Pass. The only bugbear I have with it, and it's only a small nitpick, is that the Piston Cup race cars, for some reason, don't have the same numbers as they do in the movie. There's also an extra bonus game for the Wii version called Ghosting Meta, obviously based on Meta and the Ghost Light, which I used to remake all the time with my old toy of Dodger the Milk Truck from Bob the Builder. Yeah, I was an interesting kid. This game involves you controlling the Ghost Light to scare Meta towards his home. The controls are backwards, where you're literally turning right to make Meta go left. Oh yeah, and like tractor tipping, you can't accelerate. I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing this game since the last time I played it was around last year, and playing it with this new mode for the first time was refreshing. Despite the fact there are a lot of major differences to the regular mode, I didn't hate my time playing it. Cars the video game is just fun, and will always have a special place in my heart when it comes to video games. The fact you can explore the whole area of Radiator Springs will make any fan happy. To think that all of the original voice actors reprised their roles make it all the more authentic, and it never fails to amaze me just how well it executes at being a video game tie-in. As well as being literal fun crashing into other cars at high velocity.
A minute of your time, Mr. McQueen.
I'm pretty sure this is a part where I do my usual, hello everyone, LJ here, but I've already done it now. Mistakes were made, but Cars the video game on the other hand, is not. It's a masterpiece in its own right. Now, I have played a few licensed games from the good and well praised, like Simpsons Hit and Run, or just plain god-awful, like Home Alone on PS2.
Do you hear me? I'm not afraid anymore!
Cars is in my top 20 favourite games of all time, and pretty much also my top 10 games for the PS2. But I'm not here to talk about that version, which is the one I grew up with the most, and have played the most, roughly being either the first, second or third proper video game I've ever played. With the previous games being Thomas's Railway Adventures for the PC and the original Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation. One of the many things I like about the game, it takes very well advantage of the main campaign with exploring Radiator Springs and its 2 other areas, Ornament Valley and Tailfin Pass, and pretty much take in the atmosphere. Heck, there are moments where I could just go into the main campaign and just look into the skybox. Or just ram into the nearest car.
Scandalous!
And since I'm playing on the Xbox 360, the visuals are a massive improvement in terms of the graphics. The game's a bit more colourful, all the character models have been given an overhaul, nothing too major, but enough to where they stand out from their PS2 counterparts that look a bit washed out in comparison. Now, other than the main campaign, there are other things to do, such as the arcade modes, there are road rages. Now, other than the main campaign, there are other things to do, such as the arcade modes. The road races, which are pretty much the main attraction of the game. I know, I don't judge how you play. You can pick from a few familiar faces from the first film, along with a newcomer in the form of Count Spatula. Oh yeah, there's a few new faces that are only exclusive to this game and are never to be seen or heard from again. Bring them back, Pixar, you hack.
My name's Matt.
Although a few faces are absent, they are present in the game as NPC races, or they're just within the main campaign, or stuck exclusively to specific minigames. They control and handle very well from the light and heavy cars, the steering, drifting, tilting, and as I'm playing on 360, the controls are very responsive. I just usually main Lightning McQueen because I'm really boring, Meta, Chick, or Count Spatula in these races. Also, the funniest thing about the road races, and depending if you race against him or not, Meta will take an immediate lead the moment the race starts. Yes, Owen Wilson, the racing car, gets overtaken by Butch and Buddy's distant redneck cousin. Who the hell taught him to do that? This guy?
Fucking meow!
He's just driven off. As for the other race mode, the Piston Cup races are in line with the real-life NASCAR races. And as someone who doesn't really care or is interested in NASCAR in general, both this game and the original film do make them a bit more interesting. There is some challenge with the rubber banding from the other races, and they will give it to you. Also, you can place the king.
My boy.
As for the third main thing you can do is the minigames. You could say it's a literal Wild West. Right, I'm going back to bed. I'm going to bed. Good night, everyone. There's a load of variety from the tractor tipping levels, which are fun and can serve some sort of challenge. Or it just takes no skill, considering you're just Metal Gear Solid snooping as usual to avoid Frank trying to get you. Luigi to the Rescue and Sheriff's Hot Pursuit are a unique case because you're just in the main hub exploring with different characters via Luigi hunting down and looking for tyres, even if they look like licorice, and nobody likes licorice, and also playing as Sheriff, chasing down other cars like a true policeman with Rayman, along with both being accompanied by all-around fucking bangers, just like the rest of the game's mix of original music pieces and licensed songs. Sadly, there's no Life as a Highway. It's like Shrek without All-Star. I'm looking at you, Shrek the Musical, you Liz. But as a whole, there will never be another game like Cars the video game, especially with games today, especially licensed games where you can sort of tell there's effort in, but at the same time there's not. But as for Cars itself, it's all good fun around for everyone. Oh yeah, there's this other thing in the 360 version, there's a Meter Speedy Circuit, Lightning and Meters picking up rubbish off the floor, and Ghosting Meter, which I thought were only exclusive to the Xbox version, and as Luke was making this video, and him and John Luke point out that they're on the PS2 version, all other versions, and this is all news to me, considering I didn't know it was there to begin with on the PS2 version. I'd have put, this is not in the script now, like, I don't care if this makes it in or not. I've not known this. I did not know this for 20 plus years. What the hell, THQ? No wonder you went out of business.
Alright, the GBA version of Cars. I know you're probably thinking this will be a terrible, no good piece of crap, which is unfair if you ask me. I've played a handful of GBA counterparts, and for the most part, they are good, enjoyable games. Oh boy. So, this is an isometric racer. Cool. A and B are accelerate and brake, the select button toggles the minimap, and as far as I can tell, L and R do fuck all. There's some interesting differences from the console version, like boost pads, which are neat, and slow pads, which are trash. The problem is you can never see these things until you're directly in front of them, meaning that 8 times out of 10, you'll miss the green ones, and also the red ones, hopefully. But with my luck, I'll always miss the boost pads and hit the slowdown ones. But honestly, I don't want to go any faster because with such a tiny field of view, I can't even see what's coming well enough to react in time. And even with the minimap, you accelerate so damn fast you'll be constantly bumping into walls. Even in the Piston Cup races where the track layout has the same layout for multiple laps, you're going so fast that you'll keep hitting wall after wall after wall. Or you'll just be slamming into other racers. But hey, speaking of Piston Cup races, there's a drafting mechanic here that pretty much makes zero sense. In actual, good racing games, for example, NASCAR 2005, Chase for the Cup, by the way, go play that, it's a really good game, you lock on and draft behind somebody, and you overtake them eventually with some sort of sense of accomplishment. It's really good. But here it fills up a boost meter, and you go fast around them, but then you drop speed like a freaking brick. Positives, okay, try to be positive. Character sprites all look pretty good. They're nice translation of the console models, and what the hell is going on with those eyes? But anyways, on the topic of characters, boy, we have a really nice selection of characters here. Yep, a whole whopping 4 playable characters. Oh, come on, I refuse to believe that they couldn't give us any other characters. No Mater, no Fillmore, Sarge, Sally, Ramon, Flo, Sheriff, not even our man Count Spatula is here. Well, hey, the music is pretty solid. Not as good as the console version, but still really enjoyable. There's also this drive-in this version that allows you to look at super high quality, low resolution screenshots from the film. Wait a ding-dang doggone second, that's not a screenshot! Great, now the game's lying to me. Again, biggest issue with this game is the isometric view. It's such a hindrance to the game. I can't stress it enough, it's just so bad. But I suppose it is kind of silly of me to expect a 3D style game on the GBA. Oh. Well then again, that is a AAA title. I mean, a licensed game by a second party wouldn't have the same... Oh. Guess we'll just have to imagine what a 3D Cars GBA game could have looked like. Son of a...
There are several video game tie-ins out there in the world of gaming. The good, the bad, the mediocre, it all varies. If you haven't already, I recommend checking out these videos by Cadicarus where he looks at video game tie-ins to animated films, as they show just how much the quality of these games flip-flop, as it were. Cars the video game being a good tie-in to an already fantastic animated movie is not what makes it truly spectacular to me. Nor is it the fact that the cars are animated one-to-one with how they look in the movie, or that it gives you free reign to drive around Radiator Springs at your leisure, while also giving you entirely new places to race around and explore. And it's not the fact that it repurposes scrapped cars from the first film and gives them all life as a fresh, entertaining cast of characters. All of those factors sure do help its case, but it's not the game's core appeal. What makes this game so special for the Cars franchise as a whole is the fact that it takes place after the movie. Allow me to elaborate on this by going off on a bit of a tangent. If you say the words "the sequel to Cars" to either fans of the series or just general audiences, most likely you'll be met with either a sigh of exasperation or groaning in annoyance. We all know about Cars 2, and we all know why it sucked. Even if you never saw the film yourself, there's a ton of video essays and articles everywhere going into why it was such a letdown. How in a sequel to a film about racing they chose to do a spy thriller, with a convoluted story full of idiot hero spies, villains who are just as stupid, cars dying horribly left, right and centre creating a massive mood whiplash, and yeah, making Mater the main character, which made him insufferable. All of this tanked both the first film's reputation and the entire franchise, because now whenever they look at anything to do with Pixar's Cars, all they can think about is how insane Cars 2 was. Not to say that Cars 2 doesn't have its fans, of course. Many people do enjoy the film, and that's perfectly fine. But you can't deny this film did kind of sour everyone's thoughts on the series. Like, I am 90% sure that the reason the teaser for Cars 3 was so dark and so serious was because Pixar knew they really had to try hard to win audiences back to the franchise after that huge travesty. While Cars 3 absolutely excelled as a true sequel to the first film, and a wonderful conclusion to the trilogy, the stain left by Cars 2 still kind of lingers on to this day. I'm happy Cars 3 chose to ignore Cars 2 as if it didn't happen, but inevitably it means Cars 2 is now the anomaly of this 3-movie saga. The third goofy head of Ghidorah. Going from Cars 1 to Cars 3 is a better experience, but going from number 1 to number 3 just feels odd. Like you're actively trying to avoid number 2 because it makes you feel annoyed. No matter how hard you try, you can't escape that number 2. My point in all this is that maybe the real Cars 2 we needed, the one we deserved, was not simply Cars 2 the movie. Maybe the true second addition to this Cars movie storyline was the video game tie-in to the first film. Think about that for a second. In the empty hole left by Cars 2 the movie in a trilogy covering Lightning McQueen's journey as a race car, you suddenly stumble across this simple little video game that allows you full access to the entirety of Radiator Springs, not just to race, but to freely explore the town around you. A game that provides a new open world beyond the town, showing you locations we didn't have time to see in the first film, and introduces new and interesting characters once lost and left as concepts on paper, now found and given new life. Piston Cup stadiums, new and old, that serve as the exciting chapter finales to Lightning's second attempt at trying to win the Piston Cup. Showing significant growth to his character that we saw him go through in the first film, but remembers to let his old big-headed self show from time to time because it's part of what makes him such a fun character. In a story that is clever in how it sets up the antagonists, is genuinely funny, and shines a light on the characters we didn't get to see much of before. complete with the original voice cast reprising their roles, and Pixar themselves stepping in to pen the story and provide guidance to get the look of the cars and their universe as accurate to their own film as possible, while said film was still being put together. The checklist, the qualifications, all the things needed to make it a sequel to Cars 1 are right there. It doesn't tick every box, mind you, because, yeah, there is no major character journey that Lightning goes on. Some of the new characters have no plot significance, few even have no dialogue in cutscenes, and the plot itself does have some nitpicks. Like, why are Fletcher, Gerald, and El Guapo taking part in the Radiator Springs Grand Prix, which is meant to be Lightning against Chick? Where does Lenny go after Chick is shown hanging around with the Queen's racers? Not to mention the lack of any music or background noise during cutscenes themselves that make them feel slightly eerie to watch. Or little continuity errors that clash with the film's ending, such as, why does the drive-in theatre still look decrepit and unused when it was shown screening several Cars spoofs at the end of the film? But all these nitpicks are just that, nitpicks. Fundamentally, this is the second Cars film we should have got, and when you put it between Cars 1 and 3, you get a more complete story. Imagine finishing watching Cars 1, seeing Lightning learn to appreciate the world around him and realise there's more to racing than just winning, as he, and by extension us, see glimpses of the beauty of Radiator Springs around him and meet its friendly townsfolk. Ending with him giving up the chance of winning the trophy he's dreamed about his whole life to help the king, completing his character arc from arsehole to a caring friend. Then you go to this game, some time has passed and he's settled into his new home. We see him train himself up to get back into the big leagues for what is his next chance of winning the trophy. A chance he's not gonna let slide this time, not letting Chick's manipulation get to him, but still remembers to take time out for people like his best friend, his mentor, and the love of his life. Seeing him finally achieve that great victory he's waited so long for, no longer a rookie, but now a racing champion. Before then going to Cars 3, where a few years have passed since his first Piston Cup victory, and he's competed in several championships, now with new friends on the racetrack. Only for the next generation of racers, led by Jackson Storm, to lead McQueen on a journey of self-realization that his time on the track is over, and he accepts the next stage of his life. We've now gone from seeing his first victory in the video game to his last victory in finding a new purpose in training another racer who never took a chance. Leading that very racer to victory the same way Doc did for him. That is undeniably what makes Cars the video game more than just a game tie-in made in a rush to promote a film. A game that on the surface is already a fun little distraction, getting to play as your favourite characters from a film you already love in a cool, if slightly too easy racing game. But when you look deeper into it, it's a wonderful new addition to the Cars franchise that fills the hole left by a rather lackluster second film, to make the Cars trilogy experience feel all the more complete. I know I've basically spent however many minutes hyping this game up like it's the best video game ever. It's not, but this being the first video game I ever played, based on the first film I ever saw in cinemas, you know what they say, you never forget your first. And boy oh boy, what a first impression it leaves on you. It's a childhood classic, a true Pixar classic, just like the film it's tied to, and will continue to play a huge part as to why I love Pixar's Cars so much. If you're looking for a one-to-one Cars experience, I highly recommend you find yourself a copy of this game. You can get it for dirt cheap on a variety of 6th gen consoles. Just make sure to avoid the handheld versions, and the PC version, which I hear has a few bugs. I can guarantee you're in for a wonderful time. Before you go, I have a couple of thank yous I want to say. Firstly, special thank you to Jean-Luca, the Thomas & Tugs man, Leo from LJ Productions, and Thomas of Heisel Productions, who all contributed to the other consoles portion of this video. These guys also helped me out a lot, providing me with trivia facts about the game and feedback towards the script of this video. These guys are part of a big ongoing project called Cars Retold, a reanimated reimagining of the first Cars film, with each scene being done in different styles. so go support them and the several other creators involved if you can. Link to the project's Twitter profile is in the description. Secondly, another special thank you to Play Don't Pause for helping with editing my voiceover for this video. This guy has helped me on several occasions in my past videos, and this time around, he edited and leveled my voiceover from the How It Was Made section to the Cars 2 We Deserved section. I could have never edited the audio so quickly and as high quality as he did, and I'm very grateful for that. Lastly, a very big thank you to all of you guys for watching the video. This is the third time I've made a video on something non-Thomas related on my channel, and so I've no idea how well this will do. But in the end, I had a blast making this video, and so for every one of you who did watch this video, that means the world to me. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're watching this, and I'll see you in a bit.